Yo, what's up, and welcome to episode 167 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and brother from another mother, Woody V. What's up, bro?
Always good to be here, man. The Sydney weather's been bad this week, but apart from that, all is good in my life, man.
Mate, the Sydney weather's always bad, we know that by now, so good to have you, mate. Just before we introduce our special guests, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. Absolutely thrilled to introduce a very special guest this week. She was born in Queensland to an Aussie mum and a Kiwi dad and played her junior basketball in Queensland before attending Saint Mary's University in the US. She then returned home to spend some time in the NBL1 North as well as in the WNBL with the UC Caps. She is currently one of the absolute stars of the NBL1 East, playing for the Hills Hornets. And not only that, she's an absolute lovely person. It's a huge Throwback Hoops welcome to Jade Kirisome.
Hey guys, so happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I know we've been looking forward to this for a while. We really appreciate you giving up your time to talk with us. For the record, you're the second Hills Hornet that's been on. We did have Sean Montague, who was the Girls import, I think, in 2023. So you'll be the first Girls Hills player officially.
I'll take that. Yeah. First female.
That's good. Nice, that's it. We're really looking forward to sort of have a chat. So, as I mentioned, Jay, we'd like to sort of, talk about and maybe show something we're wearing today. So I can see you rocking some Hornets green there.
Yes.
So can you maybe show us that?
Yes.
Nice. Look,
I
know we're going to ask you, but how are you enjoying things with Hills so far in the NBL1 East?
Yeah, absolutely loving it. Came into the team and just instantly gelled with everyone on and off the court. So, yeah, really can't complain. I think we're starting to build a bit of momentum now. So hopefully we'll take that in. Yeah, absolutely loving it. Love the team culture and love to compete with the girls. Yeah.
Nice. And was I right about this weather? You're obviously used to the Queensland weather. Is this weather in Sydney?
Yeah, I'm loving Sydney, but I will say I am definitely missing Brisbane's weather.
Yeah, no, I agree. I much prefer that weather. So, all right, I appreciate you wearing that for us. And Woods, I see you're rocking something with a bit of a St Mary's theme as well in honour of
Sure.
So Woods is standing up, rocking the Jock Landale, San Antonio Spurs.
Lovely.
Awesome, Woods. I know you're a big fan of Landale as well, right?
I am, and started 20 years ago, and long line of Australians. It's a production factory for Australians to go out to St Mary's. So we thought, let's keep it with the St Mary's theme with you coming on today.
Yeah,
Jade,
so
and
good.
It was and I think Jock must have left 2 years before you started. I think 2018 he would have left. I think so. You might have just missed him.
Yeah, I would have just missed him. I think a year.
And Robbie, how have you seen him in the NBA this year, playing behind Steven Adams and Sengun? He's lacked opportunities, but seems like he's enjoying himself.
There's a few too many bigs on that Houston team there, so it's maybe not the best ideal situation for him to get actual minutes. But I feel like when he's got court time, he's contributed there. But I don't know. I think I'd like to see him on another team and get a bit more opportunity because I think he's a great player.
Absolutely.
Nice. I appreciate that. Well, I didn't know what I was going to wear this week. I considered a WNBL jersey. I thought I'd just keep it easy and wear a Hornets one. So, full disclosure, I did wear this same jersey when we had Sean on. I think it was episode 78, so going back a fair way. So, I'll quickly show you this special edition Hornets jersey here.
And for all our audio listeners that can't see Robbie, he is wearing the Hills Hornets Indigenous jersey from 2024.
So what that one is, Jay, this is a special, it's a special First Nations jersey that they did in 2023. So I'd be interested to see if they do another one this year. I hope they will. It was designed by a lady named Tani Eastwood, who did this in 2023 and also did the one the year before. So she's an amazing Indigenous artist there. And I really like this one. When it came out, I'm like, you know what, I've got to get one of these Hornets jerseys for the collection there. So it's a nice looking jersey. I think we've got pretty good colours and everything, right? I like that we've got the green and we wear the white as well. Yeah,
looks so good.
And you might remember, Woods, when we spoke to Sean about this jerseys, I said I was going to make it my mission for the Hornets to have names on the back of jerseys, right? And it worked. So they must have heard me speak that into existence. So the next season we suddenly had names on the back of the jerseys. You can't have jerseys without names on the back, right? That's a bit weird. Nice. Well, another thing I do before we get into the show each week, Jade, is I show a basketball card of the week. I'm a little bit crazy on basketball cards, so I thought I'd keep it simple and keep the St Mary's theme going. So I've got an autographed Atlanta Hawks Patty Mills card. So obviously, along with Jade, Patty Mills is one of the most famous St Mary's players there. So some people seem to think he's the first. He's not the first. I believe Adam Capehorn was the first Aussie to go to St Mary's, and then maybe Daniel Kickett after him. But certainly Patty Mills is the most high profile player that's been there. I'm sure his name was still spoken about when you were there, right, Jade? And he's obviously such a legendary player, right?
Yeah, he's definitely St Mary's loyalty for sure. Him and Delhi as well. They both have their jerseys hung up in our practice gym, which is really cool. So get to looking, and I know we still have a pretty strong connection with St Mary's even still to this day, which is awesome.
Well, I think under the men's team, I think they've had an Aussie on that roster every year since Coach Randy Bennett started in 2001. So we're now 24 years into it, and they've had an Aussie every year, which is just a crazy stat, right? I've got a little thing I'll talk about that later about him sort of talking about that when I met him a few years ago. But no, that's an amazing stat there. Well, really looking forward to kick it with you today, Jade. And we've just got a few questions to hear a little bit about your life and your career and everything else like that. It's been great getting to know you over these last few months, and looking forward to hear a little bit more there. So one thing we like to start with our guests is just to, I guess, ask how you found your love of basketball, and who were your early influences in the sport?
Yeah, I love that question. I think as a kid, active, my parents kind of chucked me in every sport I kind of wanted to try. My older sister, so naturally I always wanted to be just, and one of the sports she did she did two really seriously, which was netball. I know a lot of us hate netball, but I still love my netball. So I grew up playing both of those super competitively up until about age 12. And that's when my parents kind of were running you around all week to these practices. It's getting to that age where you kind of got to choose, And at that age, I had done a trip over to America school team playing basketball, and I learned about college, and that was my first exposure to campus, UNC campus, and literally ever since 12, I was like, I'm going to college. And I just think from that age on, I realized there was so many opportunities, free education as well, that basketball can take me. Because of those opportunities, I kind of jumped more into basketball and just went full out committed to that. Started playing since I was 5 on the mini hoops, so but it just came from wanting to be active and truthfully wanting stuff. So that's where it all started.
Well, we've seen the way you handle the ball as well, Jade, so there's no way you should have been playing netball, right? You're too good a ball handler for that. And obviously with the netball stuff, that wouldn't open up those overseas opportunities as well, would it?
Exactly.
You're going to Saint Mary's or Duke or UNC to play netball somehow. So that's good to hear how that all started there, yeah.
Well, it sounds like, Jade, that early on in life you decided, look, I want to go to college. This is my future. This is what I want to do. So along that journey, were there any teams you looked up to or supporter or players across the women's or men's game that you kind of idolized and looked up to?
One comes to mind in particular. She went to the same high school that I went to, but her name's Christy Wallace. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her.
Yeah,
we know her. We know her.
Yeah, so she went to the same high school as me, and I just was obsessed with watching her play. A Queensland junior university, and just such a workhorse. So I think I loved her style of play, and that's what I kind of tried to emulate when I was at least growing up. Watched her a lot, loved the Baylor team. She's probably the main one that comes to mind, but always loved watching the others. You always look up to that kind of stuff. She was definitely a huge idol of mine. She's just an all reaching out to her for advice when I was really, really young, and she just gave me the time of day when she really didn't need to. So those forget, and really cool person.
Definitely, and having someone who's willing to give their time up, be a bit of a mentor to you. At 29, 30 now, she recently had a stint in Indiana, I'm pretty sure. I think it was last year or the year before. She was still doing her thing right at the highest level. So that's
amazing.
great to see. Yeah.
And probably seeing someone that, was at the same school as you doing these things and going over
Yeah.
to college, it obviously, showed you that, hey, this can be done by an Aussie as well, right? So, that's great to hear.
Exactly.
Have to ask, Jade, I did mention in that amazing intro that I'll pat myself on the back that I did at the start.
Come on, Robbie.
Sorry. But I mentioned a Kiwi dad and an Aussie mum, right? So the first thing I was thinking when you told me that the other day is, who do you go for when the All Blacks are taking on the Wallabies, right? That must be a bit of an interesting thing.
Gosh. Yeah, in our household, All Blacks all the way. I think my dad taught my brother the huck when he was probably 4 years old. So we're an All Blacks family for rugby. But basketball, I'm 50-50. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
And you were telling me you've got your dual passports, right? So
I do. Yeah, dual
right?
citizenship. Yeah, really.
That makes it handy, helpful. Right? Yeah. And you've still got family in New Zealand, or?
Yeah, lots of family. Yeah, my dad's Samoan, so as you guys know, Pacific Islanders have a huge family, and they're all still in Wellington. Yeah, really, really cool. Love going back and visiting, and playing in New Zealand recently with their great league has been really awesome to me play live. I don't think they had ever able to watch me live, up until 2 years ago, which is kind of crazy, but
awesome.
I think, Jade, what a lot of people from down under don't understand is that experience you get from going over to America and playing college ball or whatever sport you play. It's not only the on-court experience, but the off-court experience you have, right? And it didn't always all start at Saint Mary's. You were at Furman initially, right, for a year before you went to Saint Mary's. I just wanted to unpack that a little bit, right? You're leaving home, getting away from a big, large family who you're accustomed to being around you, and then you're off on your own, trying to fend for yourself. How did that transition work, and how's that experience for you?
Yeah, look, it was a transition, and one kind of anticipated being really homesick over. But I remember having a conversation with my parents, and they said, look, here's the at least do 1 year. You're not allowed to come home from being homesick. You still absolutely hate it, and you're still missing home. Absolutely, come back. But we just kind of made that commitment. Like, there's going to be times where you're homesick. This has been a dream of yours since you were 12. You just got to kind of stick it out. And sure enough, I would say the first 3 months I was pretty homesick, but I was just so busy. I didn't even have time to think about being homesick. I'm just so busy and just loving it. After 3 months,
You had your own family over there, which you were creating, right? To support you through things and whatnot, right? So,
Yeah, it was really cool. Over there, they make a huge effort knowing you're an international. Like, my coaches on both teams would always invite me over for Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like, you never were alone. There was also families and donors and just make an effort to invite you to dinner. Like, it was just really, really good culture for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I'd imagine that South Carolina and San Francisco will be quite different places, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was definitely very different. I really liked South Carolina. Actually, I was in quite a cool city called Greenville. I actually really enjoyed my time there. I think, though, also to my fault, so didn't really get out that much just because I was living on campus a lot. But it was cool to see kind of East Coast, West Coast, the huge differences there. Because, Cali was a lot more comparable to back home in Brisbane, I would say. So it was cool to see both, though. I'm glad I got those experiences.
One thing I was wondering, we know that the Americans, let's just say they're not the best with geography and those sort of things, right? Did they have any clue about your nationality, right? Were they confused about where you're from? Or?
So confused for so many reasons. Like, first of all, anytime I would speak class, which I hated, the whole class straight away turn around and just listen to me speak and stuff, which is funny. They didn't realize how big Australia was. It was bigger than Texas. I got that so many times. I was like, yeah, pretty big. And then on nationality, they were they could never kind of quite figure out what ethnicity I was. I was like, oh, you know the Rock, how he's Pacific Islander, basically him. Oh yeah, we know the Rock. It was so funny differences. I can't believe I'm comparing myself to the Rock right now, but Yeah,
Nice, so we like
it's
that. Well, I
hilarious.
know it's a little bit further away. Like Woody and I were in Atlanta last year, so I know it's a little distance from South Carolina, but we found the people there so
Yeah.
friendly, didn't we? Where it's like very different than that sort of California side. They were
Yeah.
curious about Australia. Every time we met someone, they were asking us 100 questions, mostly about spiders
Yes.
and snakes and those sort of
Yes,
things.
always.
They were very interested to meet us, I guess. Yeah. Nice. Well, we talked a little bit about the college process there. I just wanted to ask you what that whole recruitment process was like for you to go over there. Did you have any offers? You mentioned obviously at the start it was something you wanted to do at a young age, but how did that recruitment process go, firstly for going to Furman and then ending up at St Mary's?
I had quite an interesting recruiting process. You know, I think now there's a lot more education around it and a lot more services helping people get over. I think at that point there was still a lot of older girls who were still quite new to do relatively. I would say towards when I started to really develop and start making some Australian camps and getting a little bit more notice through that. And so because of that, I came quite late towards the end of my high school career. And look, especially in America, it's clear some kids have committed since they were in year 10 or year 9. They're on the books. So for me coming in a little late, I kind of realized, I wish I started a little bit earlier, but it's a bit hard having to send in a lot of film. So once I really knuckled down, just sent a bunch of film contacts or people who I knew who were over in the States. They helped a lot. Was able to grab about 3 visits from that, visits I should say. But it's really funny. We were doing a practice session and a coach from America, I believe he was a coach from Virginia at the time, came to watch. Afterwards he came up to me and he said, look, I don't have a position for you on my team, but I know a coach and a team who's looking for a point guard / combo guard just like you. And sure enough, it was Furman University. I added a visit with them, and then ended up actually committing to them. So I think for me to realize no matter where you're playing or practicing, like you've got to perform at all times. You never know who's what to get an opportunity from that. So that was like a really cool thing for me. And then got to organize visits that just completely blew my mind. Flown over for free with my parents, just have 48 hours at each college. Oh, it was crazy. It's like they lay the red carpet out. It's probably an experience I'll forget. Yeah, really cool.
That's very cool. Did you happen to see the name Frank Selby when you were at Furman, by the way? I believe he's like one of the all-time legends of that university. I think he's like famous as
it rings a bell
in a game.
Yeah,
it's like it's going back way back when. I'm a big Atlanta Hawks fan.
Yeah.
He played for them well before I started going for him. But I know he went to Furman. I think he's maybe their most famous guy. But that's interesting. One last question on that part. I know you had the red shirt thing as well, right? When you changed colleges there. Can you just maybe explain to people that don't know what that means? They probably hear red shirt and they might not understand what it means.
Yeah.
Can you maybe give some context to that? Yeah.
So basically you can kind of redshirt for a couple of reasons. The 2 main ones, and mine at the time was if you transfer, you had to sit out for 1 year. That rule has since changed. And I believe now you can do a free one-time transfer and you don't have to sit out a year. But after that, but it was basically put in place just jumping around colleges kind of thing. And then you can also redshirt and miss a bunch of games just to keep that year in place. Then if your coach feels like you just need another year of development or not quite ready, you can redshirt that year, which means you can do all the practices. You travel, you can't play. You're basically the ultimate practice player, scout player for the team. And it is a grind. I will say it is a grind. But I'm glad I had that year. It really helped me kind of to St. Mary's and just familiarize myself with everything. So it did help me in the long run.
I appreciate that and sort of clearing that up because I know we hear that a lot. So that probably explains. So I think you did 5 years of college, right? So it was obviously the one at Furman and then 4 at St. Mary's. Yeah, okay, nice. Look, I mentioned Coach Randy Bennett from the men's team earlier there. So I got to meet him. I mentioned this to you the other day. The St. Mary's men's team came over here in 2022 and had an exhibition game against our Hills Hornets of all teams, which was pretty random. It was the first game of their tour there. And got talking to Coach Randy Bennett, and he kind of had that grumpy exterior, but after speaking with him for about 2 minutes, he was an absolute champion. He was really friendly, really
Does,
enjoyed it.
does.
I came up and had a chat with him. And look, we just got talking about the whole Aussie players over the years and that. And I asked him, you know, why have so many Aussies gone to St Mary's there? And he mentioned just how coachable and down to earth the players are from this part of the world now. So, yeah, I wanted to know sort of your thoughts on that and why do you think that Aussie and, you know, maybe Kiwi influence as well has been so strong with the Gaels over the years?
I definitely think that's a huge thing. These over. I think we have a great reputation of working really hard. We don't have huge egos. We're there for whatever. They're just super coachable, like you said. I do believe there's a connection between whoever was the head coach of the C or AIS back then at the time, also kind of made a connection with St Mary's, and that's where the pipeline started. I can't remember the names, but I'm almost certain that's how it kind of began, and then the women's team's picking up on it as well. And I just think they've had so much great athletes come through, like Aussies. They're just so convinced that that's kind of they want to keep recruiting them because it's great. I know my coaches still now even message me saying, "Hey, do you know any good Aussies? Any young up and coming?" They'll send me names. What do you think of this girl? What do you think of this young one? And I just try to promote Aussies as much as I can. Yeah.
Have you mentioned Sienna Clark to anyone by any chance? Or?
Yes, I have actually. Especially
after that game she had a few weeks ago. Jeez.
Oh yeah, definitely on the books. Yeah, no, I'll definitely vouch for her. Yeah, great worker, very talented.
For those that may not know Sienna, so 17-year-old on the Hills Hornets team, and you know gets her opportunities, and she came on against Inner West. And I think she was 6 of 7 3-pointers, 23 points. Love the way she plays, Jade. Those little spin moves she does to the rim, and that she's got no fear despite being still school age.
Yeah, 100%. She's just really fun to play with. I think she brings something to the team else quite has, which is great. We always want people bringing in different, aspects of the game, but she's so quick, so fast, really good on defense, and just really lofty. You can get hill and aggressive. So.
All right, Jade. So I've been watching you play over the last few weeks. You've had 3 20-point games in a row. Really good to see you performing well. Now, going back to your college career, talk to me about some games that stood out for you throughout that 4 or 5 year period.
Yeah, look, I guess the game played in college was a lot more kind of team focused and team based. Probably wasn't putting up the numbers that I am now, but I feel like I've grown and developed so much since college, which is awesome. But yeah, a particular game I think stood out to me. We played, was it North Carolina, NC State? Yep, North Carolina State. And they went on to, I think they made Final Four that year, or they were right up there. So, and just play a gym. It was an away game. One of the best atmospheres and games. I will admit, we got smashed that game, but and against these athletes who some of them are now in the WNBL and stuff like that. I just think that's a game that I'll kind of always remember. It was cool to get against them, and with also such a huge crowd and atmosphere, it was just so much fun.
Well, I'm looking at that box score right now. 17 points against North Carolina, 7 from 11 from the field, 3 from 5 from downtown. So very efficient. Yeah, very efficient. Now, you know what? Sometimes in college, you've got to play within the system. You've got to do what's right by the coach, But you learn all the intangibles, the X's and O's. And when you're playing, in the pros or the semi-pros, you can take all those lessons you've learned and put them into practice. And we're seeing that now, right?
Agreed. Yeah, exactly how it is. And just fitting in the system. But I think there's still some actions that have, helped me out today. And I might be jumping in, but I used to play Liz Smith, who's on the Hornets team, a lot in college. And I think I must have done like a little move, an action that we did. She goes, "Oh, typical Saint Mary's." So I still come to my game today. So yeah, really funny.
Isn't that a small world though to now be playing alongside Liz Smith, who's the only import on the team? She's fitting in well, isn't she? How does she do that hang in the air thing? She takes these long twos, and she's not the tallest person. She hangs in the air about 3 seconds on those jump shots.
Yeah, I mean, athleticism is off the charts. Found out the other day too, her dad fell and played defense. So no wonder why she's so awesome. This crazy athletic ability. It's all adding up now.
That's
crazy.
Cool. I was wondering with the college days there, Jay, did you play more point guard or shooting guard? You mentioned obviously a combo guard. Did you sort of have one that you played more than the other there? Or?
Yeah, I think towards St. Mary's I was more of a point guard, like strength guard. But I would say since I've gotten back, I've slipped back into the combo, which I actually prefer to play. Before I went over, I was a combo too, and then when I went there, I was kind of point guard, and now I'm starting to play on the wing a bit more at times. So it's been good to kind of develop back that side of my game as well.
And look, I mentioned the ball handling skills. Easily the best, dribbler I've seen in my time commentating the Hills women. Like it's like a standout sort of thing there. I don't think anyone's ever really stolen it off you. So shout out to you there. Wanted to ask you as well. So I know you spent a little bit of time with the UC Caps in the WNBL. Just wanted to know how that opportunity came about and what was that experience like for you then?
Yeah, really loved my time with the. I had just finished my season in New Zealand and thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have a bit of time now to relax and chill before the next NBL1 season, which was going to be with Logan Thunder in Brisbane. And then agent saying, would you be interested in picking up an injury replacement, Rossi Caps? You'd probably have to leave next week. And I was like, what? Was a huge opportunity that I wasn't sure I was ready for until kind of the opportunity presented itself. So just jumped on it straight away. Kristen Veal was coach at the time, knew I would know her, and just, I was just so excited to kind of get that call time there. I learned so much, and I had never really played at that level of professionalism before. So I just really wanted to soak kind of everything in. And it's a league to get back to eventually.
I was just gonna say, like before you left for college, the NBL1 wasn't at the forefront like it is now, right? It's televised every game. They've got great commentators, right, Robbie? And the
Amazing.
thing is, there's the spotlights on the NBL1 now, right? So you're putting up good numbers there. Eyes are on you, right? So having that initial taste, as you just mentioned, must have made you hungry to work towards getting another opportunity in the big show.
I think too, I didn't get many minutes that season. I think everything was just so new to me, and I was soaking it in. My first year playing pro as well, and now that I've had a couple of NBL1 under my belt, I'm definitely hungry to get back in. Like, you want to be able to compete for a roster spot and just stay against that level of competition. Be amazing. But definitely NBL1's getting, like, the media's been so good, just attention around it, which as it should be. It's a really fun and competitive league to play in.
If there was a graph with the 4 seasons so far, it's just gone better and better every year. And it's really exciting to see how the product's gone up so well. I wanted to ask quickly about your time with, playing with Nicole Munger for UC Caps there. So we know she's an absolute star for the Newcastle Falcons in the NBL1 East. We don't have them at home this year, which is disappointing. I think it's the last game of the season we play them away there. But what was it like having her for a teammate? She's an amazing player, right?
Yeah, amazing player and just an even better teammate, I would say. When because I was an injury replacement, I missed all the preseason, and I literally met the team like baptism of fire. 80 to go through the plays together. Her as well as Shaq from Maitland, Kira O'Reilly. Both of them just really helped me kind of down, gave me confidence, checked in on me, and it honestly made such a huge difference. Yeah, Nicole Munger is an amazing player, but she's, like I said, even better.
She was the captain of Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, right, when she was in college over there. So she's done it all there, absolutely. Well, prior to coming over and joining Hills, you played 17 games last year in the NBL1 North with the Logan Thunder. You played a couple of games the year before with Southwest Metro Pirates in the NBL1 North. So, what was your time like in the NBL1 North? And I believe last year with Logan, you guys just missed out on making the playoffs, right?
Yeah, it was really special to play with Logan again. That was my junior club growing up. Really used to watch them play and come to their games, and then to be suiting up, starting and playing was just kind of felt like a circle moment. Also just really nice to play at home again for the first time in a while, and have my family all have friends watching me. It's always kind of been online, but to have their physical presence is just unmatched, really. Yeah, just missed out, unfortunately. Had a bit of a younger group, minus 2 vets, but played with the great captain and teammate Michaela Can, so it was good to learn from her as well. And yeah, the North is such a great, very, very competitive. So each week was a huge test, and I think that's that league for sure.
It's nice that you decided to move to East and come and represent the Hornets. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think what I want to ask you is, when Robbie first met you in preseason, right? You guys were playing Penrith. I think he mentioned to me, he came up to you and he said, "Welcome to the team. We're really glad to have you here." I've come and watched a lot of your games, and one thing that stands out for me is your basketball IQ, right? And for me to get that kind of IQ, you have to be a student of the game and watch a lot of basketball, right? So maybe I'll ask you about that. Do you consider yourself a student of the game, and do you watch a lot of basketball?
Yeah. I'm saying how college really taught me how to be in the game. I can watch a game back and watch it as a fan, but you can kind of as a student, stopping each play, thinking, should I have been in that game? What would have been the better option here? So I always, I'll watch it once through, but just normally, kind of more watching as a fan, and then it's critical and think, okay, was that option? Who was open? What would have been the right cover? So, and honestly, I think growing up, a lot of my feedback, I just need to improve your decision making and a bit more IQ. And I would ask my coach, well, how do I do that? And what my mentor, Arjun, would tell me, you need to start watching film. You self play back. You should always watch your game back. You should have at least 3 things you need to work on and 3 things you did well every time you watch a game back. Yeah, film is just huge, and we've been focusing actually as a team with the Hornets and film together as well, just to get back on the same page. And whenever we do that, it's just so much. So yeah, huge fan of watching film, being a student.
Hey, now I know you're watching these games twice, Jade. I better make sure I'm nice in the commentary, right? I don't want to go into.
No, I love the commentary. I do.
Nice. I get a bit carried away sometimes, but no, that's all good there. Talk to us about how you came over to Hills there. I know there's obviously a connection, in the men's team there, but talk to me how that all came about there.
Yeah, I always believe if it's meant to be, it'll be. And this coming to Hills felt like one of them. A couple years ago, actually, maybe 2 seasons ago, I had just a very casual chat with Rob at the time. I'm no longer with that agent now, but we were just kind of talking about, NBL1 opportunities, and he said, "Hey, there's this let's just jump on a call with this coach." And yeah, I thought Rob was really, really cool. Really, I was like, oh, he's a great guy. Seems like a great club, but for me, to Brisbane to play, like for the reasons I mentioned before, being home for the first time in a while. Anyways, I went to New Zealand season and met Paige at the time. And he moved to Sydney with family. Ended up Hills being the closest his first season. I think he was the team quite late as well, but just how much he loved the club. And then we were talking like, hey, we should try and play on the same NBL1 team this year. And I was like, that's actually funny. I know Rob. Like I had one call with him, and so he put with Rob, and then yeah, just all aligned and worked out. And we were like, oh, cool, yeah. So that worked very well. And I'm really glad it did. Yeah,
it's a small world, isn't it? And of course, you're talking about Paige. So Paige Momasia, so he's the starting point guard of the men's team.
Mm-hmm.
Jade's the starting point guard of the women's team. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm sure you guys have had some pretty good battles, right, on the practice courts there. Yeah?
Oh gosh, we have had a couple, yes, but yeah, no. We'll play a bit of 1v1 and some shooting contests as well. So it is handy, but it does get a bit competitive sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
I can imagine.
Hey,
Let's talk a little bit about your start to the season, though.
Quickly,
So
Robbie.
sorry, you go, Woods.
Yeah, I was just going to say, big shout out to Coach Rob. He's a friend of mine, right? And he's been working really hard on this team over the last few seasons, and now he's got a competitive lineup.
Yeah.
Thanks to yourself and a few others have really developed. So really happy to see the progression the women's team are making under his tutelage, right? So.
Yeah.
No, he's
That's
definitely a
enough
player's
of Rob.
coach, isn't
It's
he?
just and a player's coach. Yeah.
Nice. Shout out to Coach Rob Merrick there. Well, let's talk about the start to the season though, Jade. So in 9 games, you're averaging over 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and close to 2 steals. You're also averaging 2 made threes a game. So how do you feel you're settling in? And are you feeling like the Hills family has made you welcome in the time here so far?
Yeah, definitely feel settled in for sure. I think I had a rough few practice games that you would have seen, just the first scrimmages. It was good to kind of get out of the way, the blitz as well, help just build that team chemistry. Feeling really good. This season, it's been really nice to kind of step into a role that I don't think I've seen, more of kind of a go-to point to help set up the offense and be a leader on defense and leader on and off the court as well. I'm actually one of the older players on the team for the first time in a long time.
At 25 years of age, right? Crazy. Yeah,
yeah, I know. I have to remind myself I'm actually not old, but it feels like I am sometimes when you're playing with maybe Sienna Clark, but doesn't play like she's that old. Wise will be on her years, but no, absolutely loving it, and I just feel like it's a great fit to develop so much already in my game, and I feel like I've got a lot of trust from my teammates and from Coach Rob, confidence in myself to play aggressive and play freely.
And that's great to hear. It sounds like you're enjoying life with the Hills, part of this community. I wanted to ask you, now you're in Sydney, off the court, right? Who are your homies? Who do you hang out with in the team? What do you do for fun? What do you do in your spare time, basically?
Yeah, I've made a lot of great connections, especially I would say my closest friends would be Nikki for sure. We just kind of clicked instantly since she's such a great person, an amazing, just love spending time with her. Shez, I could give a huge shout out for someone who got it. She still has a huge role that she now does all our scout, took a lot of video. It's just really, really awesome to see her still be so involved and give back so much to the team. So spend a lot of time with her as well, and we have a lot of basketball chats still. At first, I wasn't sure, whether she wanted to talk about that kind of stuff, because it is, it's really sad to sit on the sideline. She's just all in, and just credit to her, and shows who she is as a person and as a teammate for her to be able to still. Those two have just been really awesome support systems, and that's the best part about basketball really, is meeting people and just building those connections off the court.
And it was such bad luck for Shez Clay, wasn't it? The first game of the season, the first quarter, I believe it was, there was a really slippery court against Inner West, which we won't talk about.
That's ridiculous, that court, by the way. It should have never been
played.
played.
You can say it, I don't want to say it. You can say it. Agreed. And look, it's so unfortunate. I know we were so excited to get her back to her home club and everything else like that. And, with her coming in and you coming in, there's all these high expectations. And then they were just basically crushed in the first quarter. So she's had surgery. I think she's off crutches now, maybe. Obviously, hopefully she comes back close to it, And I believe she had the same injury on that court like 5 years prior or something as well, which is just, that's freaky. I actually wasn't aware of that until I heard that on the East Got Game podcast. Shout out to them. So they had Shez on there. So that was crazy there. But I think what you said as well, Jade, you can see how close the team is. It doesn't feel like it's, from my point of view anyway, there's no egos. Everyone's sort of happy for each other's success. You saw the Sienna Clark breakout game, how happy everyone was for her. We've seen some big games from Ella Gale, who's still so young herself, and is 4th in the league in rebounding or something as well. And it's great to see how you guys celebrate each other's success.
Yeah, I think that's the team culture. Like, we were so excited for Sienna. Like, when she hit ankle break, it felt like we all felt like we hit it because we were celebrating her. Oh no, it's so cool. And I'm a part of teams that celebrate others' success just as much as their own. And I know it'll soon convert it. We just got to keep trusting, keep believing, keep trusting Rob's plan, because those wins will come. When you have good team culture and energy, like they're coming. So I have full faith in that for sure.
Of course, the next home game is this Saturday, right? So we're at home against the Illawarra Hawks there. So they've kind of got a similar record to you guys. I think that's going to be a pretty even game coming into it there. And these are sort of the games that are important, right? Because there's a lot of really strong teams. I'll ask you quickly, Woods, because Woody came out a couple of weeks ago, Jade, to see the COE game. I know you were really impressed with Satya Fagan, right? How good was that team up close, given that they're basically all 16 and 17?
Ridiculous. Like, I mean, the first... You go.
Yeah. I was just going to say, gosh, the athleticism was just amazing. And truly, I don't really think we had any uses for her. I mean, how can you? She's, 6'3", and can play like a guard. Like, she's going to be she's older. So it was, First, I don't want to lose to a bunch of 17 games. I was like, nah, these are legit. They're worth this, you got to respect them. They eat, sleep, breathe basketball. Great athletes in the making, and it's cool to see, that we've got some juniors for sure. So it was a good game.
You might have heard me on the commentary. I said I see WNBA and Satya Fagan's future as well. She's got all the tools to get there, the size. Yeah. She was grabbing rebounds and going the length of the floor and, hitting layups with her offhand and everything else like that. So she was certainly an impressive player. That was nice to see her live there. So
yeah,
nice. Well,
Indian heritage as well.
Yeah, that's why Woody's already.
Oh, so cool!
Indian
I didn't
heritage there.
know
So
that.
cool,
That.
isn't it?
Very cool.
She might end up being 6'5", 6'6", the way she's growing if she's still 16 or 17 as well. So yeah, an absolute problem. She's going to be there. So, Jade, you've been super generous with your time. Just one last one before we finish up. I always like to ask our guests there. What are your plans after basketball finishes? It sounds like one of those job interview type questions there, but we know you've got that degree from Saint Mary's there. What do you see yourself doing after hoops is finished for you?
Yeah, great question. Really fortunate enough to grab 2 degrees from Saint Mary, marketing degree, and then also got my MBA, which was really good. Interested in the marketing side of things. I would say in sport, whether that's marketing and advertising in sport, but I'm particularly about women in sport and promoting that. So that's the kind of area that I'd love to work in. I like how you guys are promoting as well, which I love. But otherwise, I'm just trying to play in because I know it's not something you can kind of put to the side for a while and then try and regain it, fortunately. So I just want to travel as much as I can with basketball, then hopefully make connections and network through game to be able to help in the future. So we'll see.
Awesome. And in the meantime, we hope to have you at the Hive and playing for Hills as long as we can because we love having you there, Jade.
Yes,
so,
of course.
No, that'd be awesome. We'll just go to a quick outro now. So as I mentioned at the start, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. We can also be followed on X at ThrowbacksHoops, Instagram throwback.hoops, and also our email address if you want to send in any questions or anything like that for us is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Maybe I'll go quickly to yourself, Woods, for any final thoughts. Actually, I'll go to you, Jade, first. Can people follow you? Are you sort of active on social media, those sort of things?
Yeah.
Sort of give any plugs or shout-outs?
Yeah. Got my Instagram, Jade_Kirisome. That's, always where I can be reached. And players watching, have any questions or anything like that, especially about college, I'm really big on talking about that because I think there needs to be more information around it. I'm always free. Phone calls, messages, all that kind of stuff. So.
That's unreal. Thank you. And what about yourself, Woods? Any final thoughts? I know you've been looking forward to this episode, and it's been great, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's about the community, right? That's one thing great about NBL1. It's got a sense of community, and people get behind the community. And I think what me and Robbie want to do with this show is not only just promote Australian basketball as a whole, but our community, right? So I think you coming on the show now and promoting it. A lot of people are going to hear your story and your journey up till now and the good things that the Hills Hornets are doing as well. So really happy that you came on the show. You're a great person, and for you to give up your time, it means a lot to us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
for having me. Do. Yes.
Nice.
So it'll be fun. Good hit out before the week.
Awesome. We can't wait to call the game this Saturday against the Illawarra Hawks. For those that around in the Sydney area, come down and watch it. Come and see some of this great basketball that the NBL1 East has got to offer. And yeah, just a massive thanks again, Jade. It's been awesome having you on. And yeah, it's a big thank you and a peace out from the Throwback.
Thanks,
Thanks, dude. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Steve.